If Saudi Aramco becomes the number one company by market cap, should we start to worry?
Say
Because
it again.
I've been watching. If
If
Saudi Aramco
Saudi Aramco.
becomes the number one globally traded company by market cap, should we as a country worry?
I don't think so. At one point, weren't they the number one traded by market cap?
For a quick little second, and then valuations got adjusted, and Apple went back up, and Microsoft went back up.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily worry. I think that oil is a commodity that they're already diversifying the economy, so you can't fight against such situations like that. I think America still has the strongest companies. Like if you look at Fortune 500 companies, probably 90% of them are American based. So even if the top one company or two companies, I don't think that necessarily changes this. But the last thing I want to say about this UAE situation is, obviously, I know a lot of people have said like, well, it was built on slave labor and migrants and stuff like that. The word slave, I don't think should just be thrown around lightly, especially our history in America, which America was really built on slave labor. And people have no problem coming to America or spending money with America, ironically. But also, different parts of the world is different. There's different laws, there's different living expenses. Everybody doesn't have the same thing. But I will say this, even now to this day, you have thousands of undocumented workers that are getting taken advantage of in farms all across America and low-paying jobs all across America right now to this day. From Central America, from Mexico. So if somebody highlights that, well, it's like, okay, well, America is supposed to be the authority on human rights. America is supposed to be, the most advanced country in the history of the world. Well, let's take away undocumented workers. You have actual slave labor that's happening currently right now in America, and it's happening through the prison system. And this is when we talk about documentaries like The 13th, where slavery never really went away. It just got transferred. And you can't turn down a job in jail. Like, you can't turn down a job in jail.
Yeah.
And they have millions of Black people, mostly Black men, working for slave labor in prison currently right now. Makes up 5% of the world's population, and we have 20 to 25% of the prison population. That's not done by accident. That's done by design.
Yeah.
Multi-billion-dollar industry. So I would just be careful about just throwing out labels at things, because unless you're prepared to really stand on that, if you're saying, I'm not going to support any country that has ever taken advantage of somebody, well, you shouldn't be living in America. You shouldn't be paying taxes to America, and you shouldn't, be advocating for America in any way. Like, well, I'm not advocating for America. Well, you kind of are, because if you're living in America, then you're paying taxes. If not, you're going to jail. So you're paying taxes, and you're supporting a system that you're so advocating against in other places. So I would just be careful. I think Americans live in an unrealistic bubble sometimes, without fully understanding how the world works, and without looking at their own political system themselves. So there's no part in the world where it's 100% equal for every single person. That doesn't exist. Literally doesn't exist in Africa. It doesn't exist in Mexico. It doesn't exist in Canada, and it definitely doesn't exist in America. America was built, like I said, it was actually built on slave labor. It still has slave labor that's currently happening. It still has millions of people that are sleeping on the streets currently, right now. They had to clean up San Francisco because the president of China came.
Talk about it. Hello.
So it's more beneficial to look inward as opposed to criticism going outward, especially criticism going outward on things that you haven't even experienced.
The Real Exposure Program. With
That was a
exposure,
hell of a segue.
Yeah, with exposure comes education, right? And like you said, a lot of us live in a bubble, and our mindset is inside that bubble as well. And until you again get educated, or even sometimes when you're trying to get educated, people will resist it because it doesn't feel comfortable. So you made probably 1,000 great points inside of there. Well done.
Yeah,
for sure. All right,
amazing.
So
right? We got to get your solo can back too when you get back to the States.
For sure.
Yeah.
Upon our return.
Yeah,
sure.
that way.
So let's talk about trading. Did back testing allow you to gain more confidence in your trading?
That's a great question. Someone asked me on Twitter. Yes, it gave me back testing gives you it's like watching film. It gives you the ability to know what can work in a real market. The thing that does give you ultimate confidence is forward testing. There's nothing like actually putting a trade on, hearing order pending, order filled, and now you're seeing the position go against you or in your favor on a future side. Like when you hear target filled, that's when you know. So back testing is like watching film, and I think most people don't go back far enough to get a true sample size. I think you need to look back at maybe 6 years worth of data to see if your targets work. So if you're trading futures, you need to see if 4 tick target works, 20 tick target for every instrument that you trade. On the option side, I think you need to see if you're going for percentage based targets. Do they work in every cycle? A compressed cycle, a lot of volume, a lot of volatility, squeezes limits up and limits down. You have to see that. But the only thing that's going to give you real confidence in your trading is forward testing. Like you can't be on simulation mode all of your life and expect to have some big wins. It hits different when you actually like put your money in. And even for a lot of you who trade with prop firm money, it's different than when you put all your capital on the line. Because in real life, you can't hit a reset button if you lose 100 grand on a bad option call, or like the guy on Netflix who lost 11 million. Fortunately, he made it up with Dogecoin. Shout out to the dog. Listen, but you trade a lot better if you're using your own capital because you're going to be a lot more mindful of the trades that you take. So, closing out this year, going into 2024, if you've not taken a live trade yet, set aside $2,000 to do so you can feel all of the emotions, write your game plan out. But the only way you're truly going to get confident is by shooting your shot at the market and forward testing your strategy and not deviating from. I mean, I keep saying it, but stop deviating from your plan.
Yeah, inside that options trading, I would tell people this is like one of those things that I hadn't seen people doing, but you should check the bid history before you buy a contract.
That's a
Right?
great. Say it again.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, because I think people get the stock price and the bid price and they think they're the same thing, and they're completely not, right? So you can see
Different.
how a stock moves over its history, right? We can see the 1 month, we can see 6 months, year to date, 1 year, 2 years out. And that's great to know. But you should also know how that bid has moved with the stock price, right? And so if the stock moves up, how far has the bid moved? Has it grown to a percentage that makes sense to you, right? Like we always talk about that. Like, what's the percentage that I need to see it decline before I realize that, all right, it's hit a level that I'm willing to now invest. And so finding out what the bid history is as important, if not more important, if you're trading options, right? You need to see where it was 6 weeks ago. You need to see where it was a year ago. Sometimes if you're doing a leap, how far back 2 years ago. You want to see where that is trending, so you know, all right, this is a spot. It pulled back 20%, it pulled back 30%. I like to do 50%, right? If it pulls back 50%, it's a great company. I'm looking at it like, okay, there's some room for growth. And we kind of showed that on the screen a few times, but I think people are getting confused. They're like, well, the stock price moved up with the bid. If you're in options, you're trading options, you need to look at the bid, right? You need to know what that ask is. Like you said, it's good to watch it, but when you see order filled, it's a different feeling.
That's when the game really starts.
Right.
And
that becomes, yeah, I was gonna say that becomes one of those things like, all right, am I gonna fill this at a limit price or a market price? These things are all these little intricacies that you need to know before you get into the space. Because again, he had 10 million go down to 6, but he still had other investments, right? Most of us don't have $1,000 that can go down to 400. So we got to be a little bit more refined with our skill set when we're making these decisions. Every tool you can add to the tool belt is important.
The great lesson that I think I forgot to mention, I don't like how he dispersed the capital, but I've been saying forever, every business on earth needs to learn how to trade so no one can dictate your future endeavors. Like there's a lot of talk, and I was talking yesterday about like where does the podcasting space go after 2024 and 2025? A lot of y'all living zombies right now. But I think for those of you that are moving forward, if you don't know how to trade and invest inside of that business, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think if he would have maybe had a Apple or Microsoft call, then did the Doge and Bitcoin, he probably could have tripled that money. And what a hell of a story that would have been. But you know, I'm glad he messed up because it makes opportunity for us. We need to get on the line with Netflix ASAP.
Four Rolls Royces too many.
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Ian, what's up?
This that Red Panda Anthem.
Red Panda, what's
This
good?
that Red Panda Anthem.
Your
Whole
boy.
clip going up. I know they can't stand